Picture it. A Champions League final against a side of PSG's caliber, between a midfield trio of Rice, Bruno and Odegaard, or Rice, Scott and Odegaard. Which combination genuinely gives Arsenal the firepower to go toe-to-toe and lift the trophy?
That's it then. Christos Tzolis is officially an Arsenal player. The club view him as a prime market opportunity at just the right time, essentially a like-for-like replacement for Leandro Trossard. But mate, if I may ask, who exactly are we getting in Tzolis, and what does he actually bring to this setup that's different we already have?
As you've rightly noted, he's been brought in directly to replace Leandro Trossard, who has departed for Besiktas. That leaves a sizable vacuum, not just on that left flank, but in terms of the overall profile. Trossard was slated to leave last summer, but the club sensibly extended his contract for 1 more year. We all saw his massive influence during that title-winning campaign. He was arguably our most effective forward. His presence elevated the entire unit, so his absence will inevitably be felt. Profiles like his are rare in modern football, and we simply didn't possess an internal successor who could step seamlessly into that role. That is precisely why the recruitment team moved with such swiftness. In Tzolis, they've secured a player approaching his prime, a genuine market opportunity coming from the exact same league where a young Trossard launched his rise. In terms of tangible output, Tzolis brings elite chance creation, goals and assists. The crown jewel of his underlying metrics, he created 135 chances for Club Brugge last season, 52 of those coming directly from set pieces, which happens to be Arsenal's secondary tactical weapon. Over 2 seasons in Belgium, he registered 108 appearances, scoring 43 goals and providing 45 assists. That is 88 goal contributions in 2 years. To put that in perspective, his output over that period was rivaled across Europe only by elite names like Harry Kane and Michael Olise. Furthermore, remember how Viktor Gyökeres occasionally starved for service when our wingers held onto the ball too long last season? Tzolis spots those sharp central runs instantly before opposition low blocks can set. That immediately elevates Gyökeres' service quality and boosts his chance to conversion ratio. In short, we are bringing in a younger, hyper-prolific evolution of Leandro Trossard. There is every reason to be excited.
That is a staggering track record, I won't lie. But we keep hearing this term market opportunity thrown around, and to be deemed a market opportunity at 40 million euros means the analytics department believes he's exceptionally undervalued. Break it down for us tactically. How does he actually transform and rotate through that front line?
First and foremost, Tzolis isn't a flashy, cosmetic winger who relies on superfluous stepovers. His primary asset is his execution and decision-making speed. By the time he receives the ball in the final third, the picture is already clear in his mind. He doesn't waste possessions, whether it's taking the shot himself, slipping a reverse pass, or making the unselfish extra layoff. His choices are clinical. He's also exceptionally ambipedal. Give him half a yard inside the box, and he will punish you with either foot. That is something Arsenal have lacked from wide areas. A winger who relentlessly turns half chances into goals. His returns at Bruges weren't a purple patch, they were the product of a refined finisher. 88 goal contributions in 108 games is no fluke. Off the ball, his movement is dynamic. Rather than standing isolated on the touchline awaiting service, he constantly attacks the half spaces and makes vertical runs behind the defensive line. That aligns seamlessly with Mikel Arteta's positional play, offering our central midfielders and overlapping fullbacks an immediate target. People look at his profile and assume dribbler, but I'd classify him as a direct vertical attacker. He dribbles with absolute intent. If he takes you on, it's to manufacture a shot or a goal, not to entertain the crowd. On top of that, his work ethic is non-negotiable. He presses with high intensity, covers tracking duties diligently, and refuses to play like a luxury asset. Under Arteta, that defensive engine is mandatory. He will do the dirty work, just as eagerly as the highlight reel moments. Technically, he's incredibly secure, low center of gravity, superb tight space reception, crisp ball striking, and a ferocious competitive mentality. You can instantly see why the scouting department flagged him as a cut-price gem in today's hyperinflated market. Of course, tactics on paper mean nothing until he steps onto the Emirates pitch and proves it under the lights.
You've mapped out his profile brilliantly. And to be fair, that mirrors what I caught of him in the Champions League, last term and across his match compilations. Yet the jury remains out among a vocal section of the fan base. Many supporters are sceptical, claiming we've picked up someone no other top European club was chasing. They point straight to his underwhelming Premier League stint with Norwich and insist we shouldn't expect much. What's your take on that fan sentiment? Do you think people are making a mountain out of a molehill by judging him entirely on that tough spell at Carrow Road?
I understand where the skepticism stems from. He isn't a household marquee name just yet. But what many fans overlook is that Crystal Palace aggressively pursued Christos Zolis last summer as their primary target to replace Eberechi Eze. Given the not-so-brilliant season Eze just had for us at Arsenal, had Palace signed Zolis and watched him outperform Eze in the Premier League, those exact same fans would be berating our recruitment team for missing out on a bargain. We saw this identical narrative play out during the Mudryk and Trossard saga. A section of our fan base turned their noses up at Trossard because he was an opportunistic £27 million pickup, demanding the club match Chelsea's £100 million deal for Mudryk instead. 4 years on, Trossard leaves N5 with around 70 goal contributions, proving that price tags don't win matches, performances do. Is Zolis the finished article? No. The Premier League demands higher intensity, and development isn't always linear. He'll certainly face tighter spaces than he did in Belgium. But Trossard made a similar leap from the Pro League, and Zolis's output at Club Brugge was noticeably higher than Trossard's final season at Genk. That alone gives ample ground for optimism regarding his adaptation. Crucially, signing Zolis does not block us from pursuing another elite wide operator. If the market allows, he expands our tactical options. To dismiss him before he even kicks a ball is entirely premature.
To be honest, I think those fans are far too fixated on a failed stint at Norwich rather than looking at how far the lad has evolved since.
Precisely. If we are going to evaluate his Norwich tenure, we must analyse that period with proper context. Zolis was an academy superstar at PAOK Salonika. Let's not forget that. Scoring 100 goals in 48 appearances at under 15 level, to the point where Barcelona tried desperately to lure him away. Norwich paid significant money to bring him in as a marquee signing at just 19, but his spell was marred by a tactical mismatch, continuous managerial upheaval, and the challenge of adapting to a new country. Zolis is a high-volume, inverted left winger who thrives in a dominant side where he can receive the ball high up the pitch, drive inside, and combine around the 18-yard box. That 2021-22 Norwich campaign was spent pinned in their own half, struggling for possession. That setup starved Zolis of touches and exposed the rawest, unrefined areas of his game as a teenager. Secondly, the managerial churn added immense friction. Daniel Farke, who oversaw his signing, was replaced by Dean Smith in November during a desperate bid to avoid relegation. Smith naturally prioritized battle-tested, defensively diligent players over nurturing a developing young winger. Thirdly, the jump from the Greek Super League straight to the Premier League at 19 is one of the steepest learning curves in European football. He simply lacked the physical power and decision-making speed required at the time. Evaluating him today based on that Norwich spell completely misses the mark. Look at his growth trajectory since: a reset at FC Twente, a breakout year at Fortuna Düsseldorf, and then exploding with over 50 goal contributions in a single campaign at Club Brugge. The Arsenal scouting team have tracked him meticulously, and they recognize the direct profile overlap with Trossard. One of the most promising features of Zolis is how snappy his actions are. He doesn't waste time dwelling on the ball. He speeds play up with rapid 1-2s or shifts it quickly out of his feet to release a shot. That decisive, no-nonsense style means he possesses the ability to be an incredible weapon off the bench as well. His off-ball runs and sharp decision-making effectively replace Trossard's clutch gene. No fancy tricks, no useless flair, just pure efficiency and relentless end product. His ball-striking ability makes him a genuine output threat, and that is what convinced Mikel Arteta that he is the man to replace Trossard.
Magnificent breakdown, mate. You've completely opened my eyes to a few details I hadn't caught on Christos Zolis. Hats off to you on that one. If you want the raw tactics, the real debate, and the unfiltered truth about Arsenal, don't just watch the season, master it. Hit that subscribe button right now and lock in with Arsenal Inside Out. Sharp analysis, zero fluff. Join the squad today. Now let's pivot to the absolute biggest transfer story breaking right now. Reports are coming through that Arsenal are preparing a £70 million opening bid for Bruno Guimaraes. But Newcastle have reportedly issued a stern warning. Anything under £80 million won't even get them to the table. Naturally, a lot of supporters are arguing we shouldn't be stretching past £70 million for a 28-year-old. They're saying if Newcastle play hardball, we ought to pivot straight to someone like Alex Scott. Younger, Premier talent with massive resale value down the line. So mate, is Bruno Guimaraes worth blowing past our internal valuation for, or should we be sensible and target a younger prospect with a high ceiling and resale potential?
Let me throw that question straight back at you. Picture it. A Champions League final against a side of PSG's caliber, between a midfield trio of Rice, Bruno and Odegaard, or Rice, Scott and Odegaard. Which combination genuinely gives Arsenal the firepower to go toe-to-toe and lift the trophy?
To be fair, I'm genuinely torn between the two. Tell you what, let's throw it to the chat. Viewers, if you're choosing Arsenal's midfield for a European Cup final against PSG, are you lining up with Rice, Bruno and Odegaard, or Rice, Scott and Odegaard? Drop your choice in the comments section below, and let's get the debate going. Alright, let's get the definitive tactical verdict from the horse's mouth. As our resident strategist here, which trio are you backing and why?
For me, it is unequivocal. The Rice, Bruno and Odegaard combination, every day of the week if you intend to dictate terms against a European juggernaut like PSG. The distinction is subtle but profound. A Rice, Scott and Odegaard midfield offers technical poise, fluidity and control. But a Rice, Bruno and Odegaard engine room? That gives you grit, authority, elite creativity, control and absolute tactical chaos. That is a midfield designed to strike fear into opposition setups before a ball is even kicked. That is the midfield profile of reigning Premier League champions whose explicit mandate is to retain the domestic crown and conquer Europe. People get far too hung up on age. They forget we sold Granit Xhaka to Bayer Leverkusen at 30, and he proceeded to be the heartbeat of an unprecedented, unbeaten domestic double season. Even now, Xhaka remains elite because world-class operators age differently. Bruno is 28, he offers at least 5 years of elite-level output at the absolute summit of the game. The age argument simply doesn't hold water when you're competing for silverware right now.
Fair point on the longevity, but what about the raw numbers? Do you genuinely believe £80 million is a fair figure for Bruno, or are Newcastle pushing their luck?
In modern recruitment, you have standard targets, where you establish a ceiling and walk away if the price inflates. And then you have outliers, rare market profiles, where you actively stretch your valuation because their addition fundamentally alters your team's ceiling. Declan Rice was an outlier. Bruno Guimaraes falls squarely into that exact category. Consider our trajectory since Granit Xhaka departed in 2023. We've poured immense effort into recreating that exact left-sided balance and leadership. Mikel Merino was brought in to fulfill elements of that role, but his profile naturally pushed him higher up the pitch. Martin Zubimendi joined last summer and gave us excellent control early on, but struggled with the physical rhythm as the campaign wore on. Alex Scott is a phenomenal young talent who will have a stellar career. But Arsenal's current timeline demands an immediate, transformative operator. Alex Scott can only play as 8. He's not a preferred profile to cover Declan Rice's absence, and that's automatically forced us back into the transfer window in the winter. We need a midfielder who can not only perform that demanding left 8 role with authority, but also rotate into the 6 to manage Declan Rice's workload without our tactical standards dropping an inch. Rice's minutes must be protected at all costs if we are to prevent long-term burnout, and there isn't another midfielder in European football better equipped to handle both responsibilities seamlessly than Bruno Guimaraes. And as for the resale value debate, elite clubs at the top of the European food chain do not purchase prime targets with a view to turning a profit. We are not a stepping stone club. We are the champions of England. Our objective is to acquire game changers, shatter our ceiling, and construct a dominant force. Resale value is a secondary concern for an ambitious club. Arsenal needs to move decisively. Man City are watching this situation closely as they prepare for life after Rodri. Newcastle know Bruno's professional loyalty means he won't force an ugly exit, but if an auction starts, they will sell to the highest bidder. We have the personal terms aligned. Now we must close the deal, avoid a bidding war, and secure the player who elevates us from champions to juggernauts.